We'll hear what Zizrain has to say about Diablo 4 items. This guy plays PoE like crazy, so he knows better than anybody.
Hi, Zizrain here with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Diablo 4. Highly anticipated game.
I really appreciate whenever content creators, they preemptively move their camera away from the bottom left part of the screen, so I don't have to move my camera. It's just, it's a very polite thing to do.
Blizzard, and now in 2023...
Is Lilith using a filter? Why do you think Inarius threw the spear at her?
Finally going to be able to play it. I've been doing what we call a deep dive. I think I did like 8 hours, 9 hours just watching videos, seeing other people's sum ups, other people's takes, and reading all the information and going through things. So I wanted to cover a lot of things and explain to people in my audience that might not be fully caught up on D4 yet on what's happening, what isn't happening. For example, I didn't really know until yesterday that the rune word system has been temporarily scrapped and wasn't going to be in the launch. It's a good thing. But we'll talk about...
I think that's very good too. Don't release a system half-baked. You've done that with WoW many, many times, and it's been good 0 times.
Things like that later, and that's what this video is going to be about. And I've seen a lot of people have like very extreme takes one way or the other, whether you're a lover or a hater. There are some things I see that I definitely think I will like or dislike, but so I'm gonna wait until like the game is out.
Yeah,
I'm trying to
that's actually a really good point, and he's totally right about this, is that like all this conversation we've been having about like, are unique items better, are legendary items better than rare items? Well, I don't know, man. Like, all of that shit doesn't matter whenever the actual game comes out and people see what it's really like.
Always temper my expectations a little bit, because I feel like every time I have like super hype expectations, they get shot down and I get disappointed.
Yeah.
So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about items and progression. And obviously Blizzard does cater more to a casual fan base than people like myself, but it's great that we're gonna have other games like obviously PoE and Last Epoch that has a bit more depth to it. And the items that we see,
we're gonna play, I know a lot of people ask me about this, we are gonna play Last Epoch. I'm planning on playing it after the Diablo 4 beta weekends are over. And I figured I'd do it and compare it to Diablo 4.
So far, without having played anything,
I'm excited. I really am looking forward to it.
Something that I'm not a fan of seeing, the normal stats on the item, they seem a little shallow. Whereas
normal stats, slow weapon, resource generation, yeah, this seems kind of boring.
It seems to be like both on unique items and legendary items, basically one really cool stat that you care about. And there are some really cool systems there where you can basically pull out a stat and transfer it to other items. So that
I do think that I kind of wish that they would make gear a little bit more complex. I'm not saying anything near Path of Exile, but just a little bit more complex than it is now.
That's going to be really interesting. Some were going to be drop only. Some were going to be something that you can unlock at a low tier in your codex and copy to other items later. So there are some really cool systems there, but it seems to be more about that main...
But I also want to say that before I get into any more of that, gear in Path of Exile was not always super complex. It was a lot simpler back in the beginning of the game, and it became more complex over time. So I would be fine, like I'm fine with how it is now. I just hope that they continue to iterate and make the game more interesting and compelling over time without over designing it to the point to where it's just so impenetrable to a new player that they don't even try to learn it, which is what I think happens with a lot of PoE players now, or potential PoE players.
Stat and the other ones are a little bit fillery. Obviously good for casual players that maybe don't care that much about fine-tuning their gear and each gear being really important, and potentially bad for people like me that I do care a lot about those things.
Yeah.
The uniques especially are powerful affixes that you build around, and the legendaries will be things that change skills. They also seem like they can be fairly build enabling, but less so than uniques.
I still am an advocate of the idea of a legendary, ancient legendaries. I am a big advocate of that. I think that having big dick items that everybody knows what they are, super important.
Games like Diablo in the past has always had sets One of my
Yeah.
least favorite features of Diablo 3 was how commanding sets were in basically saying, you're playing this skill now, buddy. Sets are not
Yeah.
available at launch and will be.
Yeah, they were the tuning for them was just so astronomically high. It was like 3,000% multiplied by 4,000% times 5.
Something that is coming later in the game. Runes and rune words, like I mentioned at the start, have been entirely scrapped. The initial system that we saw, which you can see here, was basically a cause and effect. Similar to, for those of you that have played Path of Exile, basically support gems,
Yeah.
where there's one rune word. This could be basically a cast when I'm mistaken system. So the first rune will be something like, well, when something happens. So, for example, when I take damage, when I deal damage, when I deal cold damage, when I drink a potion. That would be the first rune. And then the second one would be, well, then this happens.
Yeah,
this obviously got a
if-thens.
lot of
Yeah,
backlash by a
very
lot of
simple.
the fans of Diablo, because in Diablo 2, this was such a big part of the game where you basically build your own uniques and you're finding these shards basically for uniques for really cool items.
I think that it's something that you have to keep in mind that whenever Diablo 4 comes out, it's not really coming out. Diablo 4 only really comes out whenever the first season releases. That's the actual release of the real game. So I just hope that with each season, they build better and better systems to make the game more compelling and interesting.
Personally, I would love to see rune words return, very similar to Diablo 2, but with the actual base types being more interesting, because as somebody pointed out in my chat, things like Enigma aren't really that exciting at the end of the day. It's a strong, cool, unique, but it's just a unique.
Yeah, I feel unique items are kind of boring, except if they're like super, 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 super fucking rare. Or there's like a super version of them that's rare.
Item types also have specific implicits, like daggers dealing more damage to enemies that are close to you, that we're very used to from other ARPGs as well. And for those that really like things like plus gem levels or plus one charge bolt, plus one lightning seals,
They
that
have
does
that.
seem like it's
Yeah.
returning. A lot of people like that in D2, and it's great to see that return.
Yeah, I
Gems
like that in
and
PoE.
sockets are also returning. Going to be interesting to see how this is going to work either alongside a rune word system coming into the future.
Like, I just remember everybody, like you would, I think it was like the green gems that increase your critical strike damage. Is it like it was just mathematically so much better than everything else that you would only use that? And I do hope that there are different decisions that a player can make. Like, for example, in PoE, there are some people that change gems, or they hot swap a weapon combo, or something like that based on if they're bossing or mapping. I do hope that there is some degree of, okay, you want to have this item for this situation. I don't think it should be a big thing, but it should at least, there shouldn't just be one gem that's the best for everybody, and then that's it.
There is going to be a gambler NPC as well, and from the lines that we've seen, it said you would be able to get the best gear possible with the gambler. So that
That's
makes
fine.
you wonder, is it going to be very easy to gear with the gambler, or is it just going to be a ridiculously rare chance that you're very rarely actually going to see? Things
Yeah,
that
it's
I'm
probably
looking
rare.
forward to discover at launch. So Diablo 4 is a little bit more similar to games that we've seen like Lost Ark
Yep.
than traditional RPGs like Path of Exile. And Diablo 4 is more of an open world, and it is also going to feature resource gathering similar to Lost Ark.
Yeah, I think that's great. I love Lost Ark. I think it's a great game. I've played over 1,000 hours of it.
As well as like world shrines and stuff like that. So it is a bit more of a MMO world, and you'll see other people running around.
There were a lot of people that have told me that Diablo 4 actually has a ton of MMO features. It's just that Blizzard doesn't want to advertise the game that way.
Now, this can definitely be very cool. Personally, I do actually like a little bit of resource gathering in a game. It just depends how worth it is. And whenever the world feels really alive and cool, that can definitely be a nice thing for immersion, running around a little bit, especially when you're just like not actively playing. Maybe you're watching something and you're like, oh,
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. It's like any time that I'm like AFK, basically, but I'm just doing something in a game, like that's whenever I farm or I, like cut down trees or something like that.
you know what? I'm going to do some gathering while I'm doing this. Salvaging gear is also making a return from Diablo 3, so
Great.
breaking down gear that you have found. And there will be some crafting as well. I don't think the crafting is fully. I don't think we're fully sure about crafting from scratch.
I like the idea of crafting a lot, and I hope that crafting plays a big role in the game. And like a lot of times whenever I always have to stop myself whenever I'm talking about what I think Diablo 4 should have, is that because I'm very much like I want to play the game hardcore. I want to get all the best gear. I want to like fucking super serious like do the game. Like same as I play PoE. Like I want to figure out like all the best combinations, how to get like, okay, so you need a minion helmet, you need to elder craft it, you have to +3 affix on it, and then you need to have like a fracture craft, you need a certain beast for that, and you have to use this. And it's like I enjoy this, right? This is fun for me. However, I have to restrain myself whenever I say that Diablo 4 should have this, because fundamentally Diablo 4 is not that game. So I do hope that they do have crafting. However, they probably should not make it that complex.
There's also upgrading of gear you already have, basically making it stronger and more powerful. And then we have the occultist, which is basically you're able to add legendary affixes to rare or legendary gear. So if you do find something that's kind of build enabling early or cool, that's something you'll be able to add. And later you'll be able to use like the ones that have actually dropped and not just been added to your codex. The ones that are added to your codex at the end of a dungeon when you discover it is something that it seems you'll be able to do infinitely, but at a low and weak version of this. So that's nice because that gives you a reason to actually grind out something like a high roll of something for your in-game gear.
Yeah, because I think that's a really good middle ground, because one thing that happened with Diablo 3, I remember this, like I spent like 2 weeks trying to farm my 6-piece Tal Rasha set, and I knew that, and this is the beginning of the game, like I knew that as soon as I finally got this piece, I could do like the hardest content and it would be no big deal. But it was just this one piece of gear that was holding me back, and I just couldn't get it. So allowing people to get those items and be able to define their build and then make it better, it feels really bad knowing that you're just being held back by RNG. It fucking sucked. So I think that it's a very good middle ground where you can get the items early and they're not quite as good, but over time you can get a better version of them, but you don't have to play with the GIMP build.
So in terms of progression, there's going to be similar things to Torment level, and we have world tiers. You start out with having 1 and...
It's not like Torment levels. It's like Diablo Immortal.
2 unlocked. 3, 4, and 5 are available as well. It's something with 5 being something around like level 70. They'll be unlocked by doing certain dungeons. 1 and 2, you can choose as you start. The 1 is, you know, more for beginner players, and 2 is more for veteran players. So if you've already played Diablo in the past, or you're already familiar with this type of game, you're probably okay to start on 2, especially on softcore.
That's what I'll do.
And then you'll get better rewards, more loot, more XP.
Yep.
There's a new system, Renown, apparently fairly unpopular in World of Warcraft, but it's basically like...
Fairly unpopular in World of Warcraft. I actually think that Renown was unpopular because it was tied to, like, important rewards. And it was also just, like, badly implemented. We effectively have the Renown system in Dragonflight, and nobody complains about it. Everybody thinks it's great. Or not everybody and nobody, but, like, I hear very little complaints, and I hear a lot of positive feedback.
Exploring areas and finding shrines and things like that, and you have to run around the world. But obviously this is very early, as pointed out by a lot of others.
I am a very big advocate of adventure journal type content, but the difference between adventure journal type content in Lost Ark versus Diablo 4 is that Lost Ark is not a seasonal game in the same way. So unless this meta level progression persists through multiple seasons, like, okay, if you've completed all of these different tasks, you automatically start the next season with these rewards, then that probably, I guess that would be okay. But then also, like, it would give people a different unfair advantage in the season. So it's like there's positives and negatives to both ones. Like, I don't want to have to do a lot of completionism content on a 4-month cycle. Okay, that's my point.
Min-maxed, and, you know, you just get a set route that you're just running through very early. They do also have Altars of Lilith, which I haven't played Lost Ark, but I kept seeing people refer to them as Mokoko seeds from Lost Ark.
Yes, exactly.
Where they're basically things that'll give you a permanent upgrade for not just the character you're playing,
To be fair, however, Mokoko Seeds are one of the only things that are collectibles inside of Lost Ark that provide no tangible advantage or benefit to your character. Omnium Stars, Masterpieces, let's see, Adventure Journal items, all give you skill point potions and things like that, but Mokoko Seeds actually provide no tangible benefit to your character's functionality.
But all future characters you make on your account, which is a great thing for people that don't like making new characters and having it be the same experience as your first one. Maybe they want their second character to be a lot faster to level up and twink out, as we say. So as far as skill trees and things like that, you have like fairly normal, what we're used to in RPGs, skill trees that we've seen before.
This is fine.
And yeah, they look very similar to a lot of other games where you have, you know, a skill that branches out, etc. You see what you can pick, but then at the end game you also have the Paragon board that looks very complicated and convoluted.
Yeah, I don't know how this is going to work. I'm very curious to see how this works. And by very curious to see how this works, I'm very curious to go and look up like a website that aggregates effective DPS by different players that play Diablo 4, and then look up the barbarian that does the most damage and then copy his spec exactly. I'm very excited.
I haven't interacted with this at all, so definitely something I'm going to have to learn as I'm playing and read up on more. But yeah, hopefully I'll be making some highs. Isrin here with a new video talking about the Paragon boards. And
hopefully.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It's cool to see because obviously the first announcements for Diablo 4, we started out with what people kept calling a skill twig. To see it evolve from that and getting more depth, that is nice. And it's going to be really interesting where Diablo falls on the whole complexity and depth scale and for how much we're going to be playing it. They've said that they're...
And I think that's really what matters, is that how much complexity is Diablo 4 going to actually have? Because the reason why I stopped playing Diablo 4 is because every season felt the same. Every season, level up, get gear, do greater rifts. Yeah, I meant 3? Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I meant Diablo 3. It's like level up, do rifts, and then that's it. Fuck. Like, why would I go and do another season? You see what I'm saying? Like, I already did this before. Why do I want to do it again? I think PoE breaks that mold. And I still feel that way sometimes with PoE too. That's why I don't play every single season. But I come back. I think Diablo 4 really has to make sure that they have a good end game. Because I think that's where Diablo 3 just completely fell apart.
Hoping to do up to 4 leagues per year. So for somebody like me, the dream would be a combination of having a month of PoE, a month of Diablo 4, and a month of Last Epoch would be absolutely the dream. Maybe half a day of Wilson. I'm obviously worried about the game being absolutely dog shit. You know, you gotta hope, and we'll play.
I hope that the game's not dog shit. Am I worried that the game's gonna be dog shit? No. Actually, the opposite. I think that everything that I've read about Diablo 4 has been overwhelmingly positive. I am very excited for it.
By ear. So we'll see how it goes and call it out if it's not good. So hope you guys enjoy this video, and I will make some other videos talking about what I've liked from what I've seen and what I haven't liked from what I've seen. So check that out, and either way, thanks for watching. Sub if you liked the video, but more importantly, right or die less than I do.
Well, it won't matter in Diablo 4 because it's... Well, I guess it will have hardcore, actually. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, holy shit. I forgot about this. Is this reusable on the internet? Yeah, I think this is a very reasonable and fair video. Nothing crazy. No, you know, Diablo 4 is going to be the best game ever and nobody's ever going to play anything else besides this. I think it was pretty fair, man. I'm not playing it. I hope it's good, but it doesn't look interesting enough to me. That's fair. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are going to feel that way. I think it'll be fun, and most people are disappointed that are wanting a game that they can play forever and never stop having fun. Yeah, I do think that a lot of people are still trying to look for that forever game. They're trying to find that game that filled the void that Halo 2 or Halo 3 left, where it's like you would come home and you would play Halo 2, and that was your game that you played. You didn't play the new releases. You played Halo 2 or Halo 3. Or like maybe it was OSRS, or for me it was World of Warcraft. And Path of Exile, it's like that for some people. So yeah, I mean, I think that's what a lot of people are looking for, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens. I'm really excited about this game. Absolutely. I was a huge fan of Diablo 3. I even played Diablo Immortal. It was probably one of the worst games I've ever played in my life. It was impressive how bad the game was. And it was so bad, and none of the reasons why it was bad had anything to do with pay to win. That had nothing to do with it. It was just a bad game.
I trip.